Welcome to Sit, Stay, Read, the podcast for every wag, whinny, and whisker. I'm Kathleen Donnelly, award-winning author and retired canine handler. Each week, I chat with novelists about the bond we share with our furry friends and how they inspire stories. Grab a coffee, get cozy with your favorite pet. It's time to sit, stay, read. Well, I am happy to welcome to the show Amelia Blackwell, author of the cozy mystery A Crime Through Time. It's the first book in the Miss Darcy Investigate series and features the charming Miss Georgianna Darcy, who goes for a walk in the woods in 1799 and suddenly finds herself in 1995. Amelia, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Kathleen. It's an honor.
Well, I've been looking forward to this interview. This was such a fun book to read, and I'd love a little background on the storyline of A Crime Through Time, and if you'd share more about the inspiration for the story.
Well, the inspiration is actually quite a funny story because people will often ask me, like, how did you come up with the concept for this, a time traveling Georgiana
Yeah.
Darcy? And it literally came about because I was in a Instagram chat with my best friends, and one of them sent a meme of Georgiana Darcy just rolling her eyes at her brother for mooning after Elizabeth Bennet. And then the other friend said, you need to write a YA novel about this, about from Georgiana Darcy's point of view. And I just flippantly answered, well, I'd said it in the 90s so that she could be a prodigy who listened to the band, The Prodigy. And then I went away and thought about it and thought, God, that would actually be really good if I could, because 90s are quite big at that time, particularly when I was writing, a bit of a 90s resurgence, especially even with children my teenagers' age. They're really interested in the 90s. And it just so happened that I was doing my work experience at Saltram House, where the book is set, in 1995, in
Okay.
spring there. And I was 14, I was so shy, and I'd never really done a proper job. I did a little bit of cleaning, like helping my mum at the local leisure centre, but it was the first proper job where I'd, been amongst strangers. And my job was to shadow the warden of the Saltram estate. And he had a lovely Border Collie. And so I spent the week just going about, like chopping down trees and helping out some local young offenders that were doing their community service there and litter picking and all of that. And they had just recently finished filming Sense and Sensibility, the Hollywood film with
Oh,
Emma
okay.
Thompson and Hugh Grant, Kate Winslet. So all of the staff were kind of buzzing about that. And I wasn't really interested in anything. I mean, I was interested in Jane Austen, but I didn't really know anything about the film industry because at the time I wanted to be a Dartmoor Ranger. So I would just wanted an outdoor lifestyle where I was out on the moors just on my own with a trusty dog at my side. And I could never have imagined I would one day go on to be a writer and to write a novel, a place at that time. So it was, yeah, a bit of serendipity how it all came together.
It really is, and it really comes through. And I thought in some ways you had to write two historical novels in one. Um, you had to you had 1799 and then you
Yes,
had 1995, which I hate to say is historical because that's my
it is historical now, yeah.
era. But how was that hard to do? I mean, I guess we both could remember 1995, but I would almost have to go back and think about what, like, pagers, tell that kind of.
Yes, yeah. So I actually didn't have a pager or a beeper, some people call them, don't they? I didn't have one in the 90s. So I ended up buying one as research on eBay and just so like
Okay.
the Motorola one. So I've got that, which actually looks quite good when I'm staging it next to my book for my Instagram pictures. But yeah, so I did have to do quite a lot of research actually for the 90s as well as the
Yeah.
1799 timeline because a lot has changed, but there was a certain
Yeah.
charm in writing about that period again. And because Georgiana is quite sort of sheltered, her life has been privileged but sheltered. So she's quite green. And so she's experiencing a lot of first as well in the world as a young woman without a chaperone. And she has no chaperone really because she's in 1995, not her own timeline. But she meets Quinn, and he's the love interest in this book. very nice Irishman. And of course, they have their sidekick, Border Collie, who needs them pivotal moments throughout the book.
I love the Border Collie. So since this is sit stay read, we'll go into Watson's character a little bit.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was everything Border Collie, just that
yeah.
just funny, but then they can be well behaved. So you obviously, I think you mentioned you have experience with Border Collies or you've
Yes.
had one.
So yeah, my first dog growing up was a Border Collie cross with a Springer Spaniel. So all of
Okay.
the hyperactivity of a Springer Spaniel with all of the endurance of a Border Collie. I mean, he could just run and run and run. And he was actually a pub dog at my dad's local boozer. The landlord's dogs, the two dogs had produced these puppies and they needed homes. And my dad didn't even tell us that we were going to get this dog. And he came home and he had it in his shirt pocket. And he was just so tiny. This was Domino, and I desperately wanted a dog, and I'd been nagging them for years. And so Domino was really my first love. And yeah, I love that breed. So clever. I mean, probably too active for me now in my mid 40s. But when I was a bit younger, we had another breed like that. We had another rescue dog that had some collie, some Springer, some other stuff. I think flat coated retriever and Digger, and he was amazing as well. Really, really trainable. A bit more chilled out than my first dog, Domino. But now I've got Rex, who's a tiny miniature Shih Tzu who needed a home during COVID. So he weighs about, I think, 12 pounds, and he doesn't wake up in the morning until about 10:30, as opposed to every other dog I've had that would be pawing out the door, wanting his first walk at 7.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite a different dog experience having Rex.
Well, and I'm going to put your Instagram page in the show notes, and everyone should go check
Oh,
out
good.
Rex because his little face is
He's
cute.
He's so cute. He does look like an Ewok. But yeah, people will quite often stop me and say, "What is he?" And or like, "What is it?" I've even had. I'm like, "Yeah, but it is a dog." He's just a shizzy. Or like I said, he's People have asked me if he's a Brussels Griffin, or somebody stopped me on a beach once and shouted, "Oh, is that a monkey dog?" That was a
Oh.
monkey dog, and I think that's another name for a some sort of terrier, like a Brussels Griffin. But yeah, he is a little character. He's small on stature, but large on attitude.
The little ones often are.
Yeah, he really is.
Well, and another thing I enjoyed with the book, let's talk a little bit about the mystery because Georgiana, she arrives, she travels through time. She doesn't realize yet she's traveled through
Yeah.
time, and it was fun to see how you wrote it through her eyes. And she immediately finds a deceased man. And it was funny,
Yes.
you describe what I suddenly realized. I was like, oh, it's a chainsaw.
Yeah.
But seeing it through Georgiana's eyes, I'm like, what is he holding? So it was really fun how you wrote that. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, because she just doesn't have the same frame of reference, obviously. So
Oh,
that was a really
yeah.
fun thing as a writer to try and describe things through that lens of the 1799 character. And even just, his hard hat that he's wearing
Yeah.
and, the luminous vest, the day glow vest that he's got, those kinds of things. She hadn't seen
Yeah.
materials like that before. So yeah, I had a lot of fun. I think of all the books I've written, this was probably the most fun to write. Of you're a writer, so certain books are just really joyful to write. Others can be a bit of a
Yeah.
slog, but this one wasn't at all. I was just playing. I think you can that comes across a bit in the writing. Those early chapters, I was just testing out, seeing if I could do it, if I could do the voice, if it would work. And it was just so much fun that I thought I had to finish this. And I was lucky, I actually
Yeah.
managed to sell it on 3 chapters and a synopsis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which I've never done that before.
Oh, but I can see why, because it just grabs you from page one. She's such a
Thank you.
great female character because she's strong-willed, but she's naive a little bit too. And
He is definitely, yeah.
yeah, it's a fun combo. So did she just come to you right away? Was her character just
Yeah,
right there?
pretty much, yeah. Because
Yeah.
even though she's there in Pride and Prejudice and she's sort of pivotal to the plot of that novel, she doesn't have a single line of dialogue. in Pride and Prejudice, and Austen just doesn't really know what to do with her. And she says something like that in one of her private letters. Somebody asks Austen about, what would Miss Darcy sound like, and she's kind of like, oh, I don't even know where I begin to give her a voice. But she doesn't need to. But because Georgiana does what she needs to do, she sort of humanizes Mr. Darcy as a big brother, and also the plot with Wickham. So it advances the plot of that book. So it felt like really she was a
Cool.
blank slate, and I knew that I wanted her to have quite um like obviously she'd have an upper class posh voice, but also she is privileged and sometimes she has blind spots. Well, a lot of blind spots around her own privilege in the way that she relates to people of different classes, for instance. And that was really fun for me. And as coming from a working class background myself and having definitely not grown up in any affluent home, whereas she's the complete opposite. She's lived among servants. My ancestors, kind of the last few hundred years, would have been the servants. But then going back even further, I did find actually quite a lot of nobility in my
Yeah,
ancestry family tree,
that's
which was
cool.
interesting. But because the money flows down the male line, as Lizzie Bennet found in Pride and Prejudice, is all entailed down the male line. So my nobles tended to be the daughters and ended up kind of penniless and moving away from all the ancestral homes until they and their descendants ended up in service in those places. So yeah, the voice of Georgiana, really privileged, upper class, was just fun for me to write. And also, I was quite tongue in cheek at some moments.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be quite fun and funny because she doesn't have a lot of self awareness at times. Bless her.
Yeah, that's what made it fun. And I think one of my
Mm.
favorite parts is she meets Quinn, this good-looking Irishman, which we'll have to talk about
Yes.
him too. But
Yeah.
he takes her in. She's not feeling well because she's just realizing maybe
Yeah.
she doesn't know where she is in time or
Yeah.
place. And she sees the portrait of Queen Elizabeth, and that
Oh
just
yeah. Yeah. And
I
then
don't know why.
Quinn
And
is
that,
yeah,
yeah.
it tickled me. Here's that lady, Elizabeth. That's not Queen Elizabeth. She has, red curls that looks nothing like Queen Elizabeth. But obviously, Quinn is talking about the second Queen Elizabeth. So there's lots of little misunderstandings like that throughout the book, which were, yeah, just for me, really joyful little things to weave in. And I think if you're reading fast, maybe the reader doesn't maybe notice them all, but on sort of, there's lots of little layers of little in jokes and tongue in cheek things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, like
that
the
that that
antique
was the funny
chair.
moment I liked. Yes, yeah, teacher, yeah, all of that stuff. Because
Yeah.
yeah, so Saltram House is this amazing Georgian manor house. And so at the time that Georgiana arrives, there's a film production happening. And so half of the people that she meets are in period costume and, they look fine to her, maybe a little bit out of date, a few seasons. But then the other half of people are just dressed in a completely outlandish way. And she's trying to work out why all the furniture that she sees in the house is just so shabby and why haven't thrown it out and got it like newly upholstered. And, and Quinn is kind of like, no, it's just, it's they probably don't want to touch it because it's an antique. Like, you're not allowed to sit in that chair. She's like, why would you not sit in this really shabby old chair? But yeah, before she's realizing quite where she is, it's a lot of misunderstanding.
Yeah, yeah, that made it so much fun. And then the murder. Tell me how you came up with the murder. I mean, you did some of the same work, so but
Yes, yeah.
I'd love
So
to hear
that was
more.
so I was thinking about I think I could say that the body is found really early on in a
Mhm.
tree, in a
Yeah.
sycamore tree. And, and I just like the idea of that kind of crime scene being up in the trees. And really, firstly, the reason I had the idea was because on my first day at Saltram, the warden just made me oil this huge chainsaw that had like it must have been almost 5 feet long. I could barely even
Oh,
lift
wow.
it. Yeah. And so I was like filling that with oil and fuel and stuff. And he got up into the tree with all his harnesses and started chopping down this rotten sycamore tree that was 300 years old or something. And so that was very much in my head. So when I was thinking I need a good victim, I thought, yes, put them in the sycamore tree. So just robbing shamelessly from my own memories of being at Saltram House.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, and then Quinn, oh my gosh, he I I love him. He's a fantastic character. And he really helps guide Georgiana through
Yeah,
this when as she realizes maybe she's not in where she used to be. So,
yeah, and from his point of view, he just sees her as this sort of pretty, like very posh English girl, and doesn't realize at first because he's kind of Irish, and he's like, well, I don't know, she speaks like a princess. Doesn't know many sort of English toffs, and just thinks she's one of the aristocracy, which occasionally you do meet in everyday life in England. No matter what walk of life you're in, every now and then you'll run into a lord or something, and they're
wow.
generally quite dressed down and they could be quite shabby and driving an old car, but every now and then you'll meet one. And so he thinks this is who Georgiana is, never realizing that she's actually from a different time. But they have that instant chemistry and
Yes.
connection together. And so even though they're from such different worlds, it just works. And of course, during Georgiana's time, there was a lot of prejudice against the Irish.
True.
Um,
Yeah.
so, like,
Yeah.
yeah, there would be signs, at pubs and shops like "No Irish." So
Okay.
there's that she has to wrap her head around as well, because not only is he a working class man, he's a working class Irish man, and this would be very much frowned upon by Lady Catherine de Bourgh and her own brother. It would take a lot for them to get their head around that connection.
Yeah, that makes sense. And of course, in 1799, she's being pressured to get married and
Yeah,
and
make a good match. Yeah,
yeah,
unite the
yeah,
fortunes of two families.
yeah.
So, and she's, having all these suitors pushed on her, has no connection really with any of them. And then when handsome Irish Quinn comes along in a different century, and this is the person for her. So he's going to be appearing in book two and book
Oh,
three
good.
because it's a trilogy. So we'll be seeing more of them
Okay.
together.
That's awesome. That was going to be my next question. I was
Yeah.
hoping, I didn't know how many you were planning. I saw, is it, now let me see if I say this right. The Haunting of Bronte? Am I saying that
Yeah,
right?
The Haunting of a Bronte. So that one
Okay.
is set in the early Victorian era, and this is
Okay.
coming out in the UK this summer. And Georgiana goes 46 years into the future to 1845, and she goes to
Wow.
Thorpe Green Hall, where she meets Anne and Branwell Bronte. And they're the
Okay.
governess and tutor of Thorpe Green Hall. And this very strange family, strange things happen. People start dying as soon as she arrives. And it was a really interesting setting to write about because there's so much research about that time when Bramwell were there. And Bramwell was kind of, well, he was dismissed from the house for having an affair with the mistress of the house, who was 20 years his senior. And she was actually called Mrs. Robinson, of all things.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the original Mrs. Robinson. So
Robinson.
he was in his
Okay.
like mid 20s and she was in her early 40s. There was something going on between them and it got found out and he was told to leave on pain of being shot if he returned. And so then Anne
Wow.
Bronte gave up her job as governess. She'd been there for about 5 years to the girls. So she had to resign as well because of her brother's
Okay.
philandering.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so
This
that's
will
the
be
background to book two. So that's another culture shock really for Georgiana because in some ways the Victorian era was even more prudish, conservative than the
okay.
Georgian era. So the Victorians were a bit more buttoned up and
Oh,
they
interesting.
did, even the upper classes didn't quite have the same freedoms that we see in the Georgian and Regency period. I mean, even when you think of Bridgerton, some of the things that they show, some of the upper class debauchery, that was very much frowned upon in the Victorian era. So it's
Interesting.
very dangerous of Bramwell to have taken up with the mistress of the house.
Wow. Oh, fascinating. Okay. That'll be fun to read. But you said Quinn is coming into that.
Queen's there as well, yes.
Okay.
And,
Awesome.
and Bramwell thinks he's being haunted, hence the title, The Haunting of a Bronte.
Okay, that makes sense. What about
Yeah.
Watson? Do we get to see Watson in book two?
No, but there is another dog. There's a Flossie. We see Anne Bronte's
Okay.
dog in real life. That her the girl she looked after, they made her a present of this beautiful spaniel. So Flossie. I
Okay.
feel like it's important to have a dog in every book.
Yeah. I'm
It
in
just,
full agreement, but
yeah.
I'm a bit biased. So,
I mean, it makes, for me, when I'm writing a book, it makes the world so much more real if I put a dog in it. I don't know if you're the
yeah,
same in your books,
yeah,
but it really comes alive for me if I have a character that's a dog.
yeah. I love it. And the breed too, actually, I think
Yeah,
makes a big difference because they're their
yeah.
own personalities.
And
You know,
it's lovely to portray these personalities in our books as well, to
yeah,
have, dogs that we've known and loved, and then they can live on in the books
exactly.
because they just don't
Exactly.
live long enough. Or they just don't live. Apart from my tortoise, who
No.
is living long enough now, she's in her 90s and will probably live to 130.
Tell us, we were talking about
Yeah.
her before we
Yeah.
started recording. Share, if you don't mind sharing
Yeah.
again,
No, no.
her
So this
history.
is so we have a lot of pets in our tiny little house, and one of them is Shelley, who has been in my husband's family since the early 1950s. And she was found wandering the streets of Plymouth. And they thought
Oh
that
my
some
gosh.
cargo ship had, or some cargo container, because they used to import them, just take them from the wild. It was awful. But
Oh,
one of them had been broken into, and there were tortoises walking down the street. Well, somehow Shelley, the survivor, has managed to get through the hard winters through hibernating every year, and she's still with us. And she was an adult then, and now she's well into her 90s. And so
wow.
my husband's father grew up with Shelley when he was a little boy. My husband grew up with Shelley when he was a little boy, and now our children have had Shelley as their childhood pet. And it's so strange to think that she's been in the family for so long, and
Yeah,
she could live like maybe another 30 or even 50 years.
that's amazing.
Yeah. So
I
her
had no
species, some
idea.
of them can go to 150. She's an Iberian
Wow.
spurfi. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like she could be in a time travel book or just a.
Yes, that's a really good idea, actually. Yeah, I need to put
Yeah.
Shelley in. That's a really I'm going to put her into the third one. Thank you.
Awesome. I look forward to seeing her there. Yeah,
Yeah, she's going in.
yeah, it just seems like she could be a constant, 100 years later,
Yeah,
there's
that's
Shelley,
a great
100 years
idea. How
before.
did I
So
not think? I can't believe I didn't think of that already. That's such a good idea. Thank you.
thanks. Well, and along with Shelley, you have Colin. Tell us about
Yeah,
Colin.
Colin the corn snake. So my youngest daughter, who's 12 now, just absolutely loves reptiles. And I had a horrendous snake phobia growing up. And she really educated me about the amazingness of snakes through watching Snake Discovery Channel on YouTube, which is a massively popular channel. And they really do a lot of education for kids about how great snakes are. So she campaigned my youngest daughter for years.
Nice.
And then we adopted Colin, who was 8, so middle-aged corn snake called Colin,
Okay.
and we've had him for 3 years now, and we just love him. And I never thought I'd be the kind of person that would just have a snake around my neck, just going about, in the garden. But yeah, so he's great. So we have 2 reptiles, 2 cats, Rex
Oh, I
in
love
our
it.
tiny house, we have more pets than rooms. The house is 2 up, 2 down, so 4 rooms, 5 pets, and four
Oh my
humans.
gosh. Oh my gosh, I love it. And then your two cats. Your cats are fascinating
Yeah,
too.
yeah. So we've got Bramble, who's a Maine Coon cross, and she's almost like a dog in some ways. She plays with the dog toys. She's the least catty cat I've ever had. She like if you throw a ball, she'll get it, bring it back. And
Wow.
then we have BB, who we got from a rescue when she was 7. We've had her 7 years now, but until that point, she was always returned to the rescue after about a year.
Mhm.
It was so sad to be in the rescue once, but when they brought out her file, it was like a rap sheet. Like people kept bringing
Oh.
her back for various reasons. And yeah, she did have some slight mood swings, let's say, but she's calmed down a lot now. I think she's learned to trust us, that we're not going to get rid of us. Yeah, she'll be with us until the end.
I love that.
So
I
yeah,
love that
we have a
you
menagerie of animals, which is the best. Like when I was a girl thinking, of my future, I always hoped I'd have a lot of animals. So
yeah.
I'm so pleased that that's become reality.
Oh, I love that. Well, and obviously your whole family loves animals too. I mean,
Yeah,
so how
we all love
special.
them. Yeah. I would
That's
have more. If
awesome.
I had a bigger house, I would have more. But here's hoping the book sells well and we can move to a bigger house and then have even more. One of my friends has a small holding and she has mini sheep
Oh,
and
cool.
chickens. Yeah. And ferrets, dog, cats. Yes, we need more animals.
Well, I hope that books sell like hotcakes so you can have more
Oh, thank
animals
you.
as a fellow animal lover. So
That would be the dream. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Where can readers find more about you, your books, and you're writing this one under a pen name. So
That's right. Yes.
maybe
So
share a little
Amelia
bit.
Blackwell is on my Instagram page is the best page to find me because I don't have a website, alas.
Okay.
And then my real name is Lisa Glass, so I also have an Instagram page for that. That's what I've been writing my YA novels under. And
Yeah.
actually, one of them is in development for a TV show now, which is
Oh,
very
cool.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, like Blue, Aaron Bride, and my YA romance is set in Newquay, where I live in Cornwall. And we've
Okay.
just recently had some news that the team has got a really sort of well-known producer on board who was
Oh,
the
very
actually
cool.
the showrunner of Doc Martin, which was a really famous TV show in this country set in Cornwall. And so he's joined the team,
Okay.
and it looks like,
Nice.
fingers crossed, that it could actually be made, which would be amazing. And then I would
That's
definitely be getting
awesome.
a bigger house and extra pets.
Yes, yes. What is the storyline of that book and would
So
it be in the US? Would we be able to see it too?
yes, it was actually released. There was an American release. So it's
Okay.
about Iris, who's a teenage girl in Newquay, who's really into surfing, and she's working class. And then this kind of dreamy Hawaiian surfer called Zeke comes through to her surf beach. And he's had a lot of things go wrong in his life, and he's kind of a little bit undercover. And they get together. So it's that big romance, first love story,
Okay.
because it just so happens that Fistral Beach, which is my nearest beach, is a big international surfing beach. So we do get a lot of
Oh,
surfers
nice.
coming through, and international surfers too, pro surfers, such as Zeke.
Cool.
So yeah, so that's the premise of that series, and hopefully that TV show.
Oh, I love it. Well,
So
fingers
hopefully
crossed.
it
It
comes
sounds
to be.
fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that is awesome. Well, I will make sure I put should I put both Instagram pages in the
Yes, please.
notes?
Thank you.
Okay, that
Yeah.
sounds good. I will do that. And thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing so
Oh,
much.
thank you so much, Kathleen, for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's been fantastic. And everyone, if you enjoy a fun mystery, charming main character, handsome Irishman, and
Thank you.
mischievous Border Collie, A Crime Through Time is the book for you. And until next time, keep your tails wagging and pages turning. Thanks for joining me today. Sit, Stay, Read is a part of the Authors on the Air Global Network. If you enjoyed today's author interview, be sure to leave a review and share the episode with a fellow animal-loving reader. If you're curious about the world of working dogs and wilderness adventures, please check out my books at KathleenDonnelly.com. Until next time, curl up with your best furry friend and sit, stay, read.